Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Funky Marketing Podcast. Today, we are recording one of those Funky Marketing Top Voices episodes when we have people that we at Funky Marketing consider as the top voices, people that are trying to change the industry or to change their environment just at least just a little bit and make some kind of a change. So today I have a pleasure to welcome Danny Levy. I hope I pronounced it right.
That's right. It's about as good as anyone ever gets it. You've done it justice.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, because people usually say, if I'm not wrong, like Levi or something like that.
Yeah. Normally people pronounce it levy, like a tax levy, but it's actually levy. But hey, I'm used to the levy.
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't get it right as well.
Yeah, I forgive you.
Okay, cool. So maybe it's better if you give us a short overview of kind of what is it that you do.
Sure. So my name's Danny Levy. I'm the managing director of a company called Worldwide Business Research Insights. So the business has been running for about 25 years. We've got offices in London, New York, and Toronto, and I run our Singapore office. So I'm the managing director for the Singapore office. So I'm responsible for the entire APAC region, large region, very diverse, very fragmented. So not the easiest to market and sell into. And what the business does is we are the world's leading large-scale business-to-business summits organizer. So the unique selling point of the company really is that we invest a huge amount of time in research, product research. So our internal producers, our researchers spend on average about 3 months just speaking to the specific end users within each vertical that we put out our large scale events in. We're very, very strong. We're a market leader within e-commerce. So we have a big brand called eTail, within customer experience, within procurement, within capital markets, and many more. And as you can imagine, the health pandemic massively altered and restructured all the different offerings that we have. We've shifted all of our large-scale flagship events online. So we've refined that over the last 12 months. We have an online platform that we're using now that we're very, very happy with, and we believe that it's now offering the same kind of premium experience online that we used to offer in all our 5- and 6-star venues. We have a one-to-one meetings model where our inside sales team will take, say, a head of e-commerce for retail. They'll take them through a series of very in-depth questioning. They'll profile them. They'll understand decision-making, budget, immediacy, what they're spending on. And then companies will sponsor our Connect event, and they'll get a number of meetings with people that are kind of ready to buy. It takes place over an online app and on Zoom meetings. So that's all working really well now. That's nice and optimized. No death by PowerPoint. You come in, you have your meetings, you get your ROI, and you go off. And then we also have, we build up our kind of market research. We put out research reports, and we do a lot of content syndication. We have newsletters across all the different portals, and I have my own podcast.
Sounds like a lot of works and a lot of things going on.
Yes, there's a lot of things going on. A lot of channels for our customers, which is a good thing.
Yeah, man. I like when that's how you do. I mean, that's how I keep my mind fresh.
Yes.
Just because doing a lot of other things, and I'm glad that you are recovering well from the COVID situation and just kind of shifting everything online. Because I'm seeing a lot of events that are now going online, but not many of them were able to kind of replicate the offline experience. I mean, maybe it's not possible to replicate it fully, but just to get somebody excited for the event, that's just enough in my case.
Yeah, I think you've got to make sure that you really understand the customer requirements. Make sure that you actually speak to your most important customers. It'll never replicate the physical environment 100%, but there's some very good things that you can do with digital summits. You know, there's pros and cons. You can tap into to attendees and to delegates from across the APAC region that probably wouldn't have been able to fly into Singapore before, or to Hong Kong, to attend in person. So that means that actually, from a business development standpoint, you've got access to people you might not have done before. And from a top of funnel standpoint, you're reaching many more people that potentially you couldn't have done before as well. And there's definitely cool things you can do around all the various apps and platforms in terms of one-to-one meetings. And we have a very dedicated inside sales team who make sure people attend online as well. I think if you don't have that, it can be a little challenging because people can ghost you, as I'm sure you're aware, through the Zoom meetings, but our inside sales team are pretty good. And as you can imagine, I mean, over 25 years when we were running in-person events, we had a lot of very, very fine-tuned best practice. We were a very well-oiled machine when it came to in-person summits, and we've been able to take some of that best practice and move it into the online environment as well. So luckily, it's working quite well for us. Yeah,
it's good to hear that. So let's go a little bit back. We're both not that old, so it's not way back. but let's see how your story started. How was your childhood? Where did you grow up? How was everything back at the time?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm living in Singapore now, but I'm from the UK originally, from England, and I grew up in the north of England, in Yorkshire, in a place called in Hull, in the north of England, that normally gets a very bad rep as kind of one of the dullest places to live in the UK. But I mean, it's a fun place. It gets a bad rep. Very, very, very friendly people. Lots of outdoor space. Lots of big houses, big gardens, and I had a really happy childhood. Made some very good friends, many of whom I'm still in touch with today. Sadly, haven't been able to go back to the north of England through the health pandemic. I'd normally go back probably once every 18 months or so to see my friends and family. But since COVID, I've not been able to travel. My parents would normally come out to Singapore kind of once a year as well. And my parents and my sister and her husband still live in Yorkshire, in Hull, in the north of England. And kind of growing up, I mean, kind of I did all the normal kid stuff, right? I played a lot of sport. Football and rugby were big ones for me growing up. I think I was probably playing or training at football and rugby every day of the week, if I remember. And being in the UK, we were often on kind of coaches. I remember being on a coach a lot as a kid, going to play a team away and kind of getting up to lots of fun with my friends on the team bus, going on rugby tours to places like Edinburgh and into Europe. So played tons of sport, I think, and that's helped me, I think, when I moved into business as well. All that kind of team sports and that team spirit and everything you learn through that, all the camaraderie and getting the best out of other people and working well together. That's really invaluable. So that's worked really well. So yeah, I mean, it's just a really nice childhood, really, and lots of happy memories.
Yeah, and I guess the first job was over there as well, right? Something local. That's usually how we start as people from the small cities.
That was it. Yeah, I think I got to about 16, and my mum said, "You need to get a job now. Go find one." My first job was my first proper job was in a jewelry shop in a place called Beverley, near where I grew up. So Beverley, for people listening to this that aren't from the UK, Beverley's kind of a bit like you kind of picture book town in the UK, a bit like kind of Oxford or Cambridge, York, that kind of vibe, kind of cobblestone streets and little stores and cafes. And there's a jewelry shop in the middle of town there. And I worked in the watch department in the jewelry store. So I was kind of tasked with repairing watches. So I would change a lot of watch batteries with tiny screwdrivers, which is actually a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
I remember once I had this awful experience where someone came in with I think it was a gold Rolex, and they asked me to change the watch battery. And it was one of the old watches. So you had to put in a Stanley knife and just pop the back off. And It had been in the family for a very long time, and he had an engraving on the back. I can't remember what the engraving said now. And I popped the engraving off the back by mistake. And I was 16. I remember I didn't know what to do. So I kind of panicked, excused myself, went upstairs into the kind of watch repair area. And I remember, this is terrible now, but I super glued the engraving back onto the back of the Rolex and then put the watch battery back in and gave it back. So, but other than that, I learned a lot about customer service. I mean, you were kind of selling high value watches, dealing with customers. It was quite nerve wracking at times at 16, because for you, it would feel like a huge amount of money. If someone came in and bought an Omega watch or a Rolex, it would be like, wow, you know, that's more than my entire salary this summer. And having to deal with, you know, older people, I guess more high net worth individuals. So it was a great learning experience, to be honest with you. And then other kind of jobs I did when I was young, I worked in a sandwich shop in a delicatessen. So I still know how to make a mean roast beef sandwich with caramelized onions. Still does me well. And through university, I worked in silver service. So I worked at like the Windsor Horse Show, Silverstone, with kind of celebrities. You used to have to kind of clear the entire table in one go with the big plates. I remember I cleared the royal family's table at the Windsor Horse Show, and I remember I kind of lost my balance and dropped some cutlery. And I don't know who said it, but I just remember hearing "how vulgar" from the head table as I walked off. So I think you've got to do these kind of things when you're young. I mean, they teach you so much. And when you do kind of come out of university and go into your first job, whatever it is, you've got that kind of experience that you can play off, and kind of putting yourself in at the deep end, it always helps.
Yeah, I was thinking about my first jobs while I was listening to you, like besides working at the cafes, like all of them were related to the communication or telling stories in a way. When I look at it from right now, like my first job was selling books on the book fairs. Okay. So without any experience in like selling anything, but just like I was super excited because I was reading a lot, and something that my parents installed me while I was younger. And the second one was actually going from house to house and just marking up the electricity spent. So the trick here was that 7-8 a.m. you need to come in the yard or even in the house of somebody and to check the numbers. So you need to get all kind of skills to avoid the dog, to wake up people, to kind of, you know, persuade them to do specific things. Then like when they get accustomed to you, they even tell you where the keys are. So all kind
of setting you up perfectly for that career in marketing.
Actually it was kind of interesting, like, because I used to go with my friend, and they would ask us, why is it like two of you? Probably one can write and one can speak, you know. They were making fun of us, but it was just too boring to go alone, you know. So
I guess in the bookshop as well, you must have had to be you were dealing with customers, and you're dealing face to face with people and kind of different personality
it was actually
types.
on the main square in the city where those things were happening. So a lot of different people coming, and you need to have your mat for everything. So it was kind of a good preparation for everything. And I didn't do anything related to that up until I don't know, like 10 years ago after that. And kind of now looking back, because at I don't know, for 5 or 6 years I was unemployed, because actually my parents consider me as unemployed, because I was running an NGO and organizing events, like stopping villages from dying, huge summer camps with 200 people from like 18 countries. But I knew that digital marketing was coming, and what I wanted to do is coming. I just needed to be patient and up my skills when that time comes. And when it came, I just took off. So
nice. And you weren't unemployed; you were working. You were definitely doing something valuable and getting all that experience,
Yeah,
which you
but you
could then
know
bring
how it
in.
is. At that time, I was living
Yeah.
in the small city here in Serbia when there's a huge Michelin factory and
Mm.
everybody's working in it. So it was like you go there, you work out there like 3 shifts and no life
Yeah.
and everything. So I just didn't want to do that to myself.
Okay. You stayed strong. The perfect
Ye-
mindset to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
unemployed that turned out to be somebody that actually knows something.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about challenges. So when
Okay.
you look back at now, like you started from the small city in UK and
Yeah.
now where you at running the APAC region. So what are some of the biggest challenges you had?
Yeah. I mean, as you can imagine, I kind of worked through the 2008 financial crisis, and then I relocated to Singapore 10 years ago, or just over 10 years ago now in 2010. And prior to what I'm doing now, I started 2 businesses and grew those to 7 figures in revenue. So you can imagine there's a lot of challenges I faced over the kind of last 10 or 11 years that I could touch on. But if I had to pick one, I would say that actually 2020 was the biggest challenge, and I think it was just because it was just the nature of the crises. Because in previous economic crises, if you were in a company that was kind of selling a solution, there was always ways that you could kind of optimize your offering. You could kind of pivot and go in a new direction. You could work hard to get through it. But for us, as I mentioned before, that wasn't really an option because our main business was large scale, in-person, highly researched B2B summits. So although we could pivot, I mean, it wasn't like you could just refine or do things slightly differently. It was like we had to reinvent the entire business model. And it was almost like going back to basics 100% and doing a startup again, starting from scratch. So I think the big thing with that was that we just had to kind of refocus so quickly last year. And we went from a business that was doing very, very well and were very successful, like I mentioned, and we're a really well-oiled machine, into a business that really we had to figure things out very, very quickly. And I was quite lucky. I mean, there was 2 things last year that really helped us through this challenging period in terms of how I handled it. Um, the first thing was that in Singapore, the APAC team, we really do have a really fantastic culture and we have fantastic people. And like I touched on before, we were the market leader. We are the market leader in a number of verticals here in Asia: e-commerce, procurement, customer experience, travel, to name a few. And the first point, I guess, it's always a bit cliche, right? When you say, oh, you've got to have a brilliant culture or you've got to have good people. But I think last year really shined a spotlight on it because things were so difficult. Everyone was under so much strain. Workloads were increased. People were working from home with all the stresses that went along with that. I think if you don't have that kind of can-do attitude, that positivity, that culture where people really pull out and work together and get through really difficult moments, then you're really going to struggle. And I think a lot of companies make the mistake when times are good that they don't worry too much about their people or their culture because things are going okay, times are good. But then, like in challenging times like last year, you're really going to be found out when things are hard. And then back to the point around the products again, the same thing. If you don't have fantastic products, again, in good times you probably can get away with it. Things will be okay. But again, in bad times, you're going to be found out, and your customers, they might not stick with you. They might not stick with you in bad times, but if you've got those kind of market leading, those number one products, and customers love it, then even through the bad times, they're probably going to stick with you. So like I said, our business, it really looks very different now than it did 12 months ago. But we've been fortunate, we've really optimized. We've got different channels, and we can offer now kind of year-round integrated digital campaigns for our customers across all the various touch points. So I think although last year was so challenging, and there were definitely moments last year where people were pretty burnt out, right? I mean, it was very, very tough at certain moments, but it's pushed the business forward to new heights. Really has pushed the business forward to new heights, and I'm really excited about 2021.
Yeah, some great points over there. I totally agree. And I want to dig deeper into two of them. First, the culture.
Yes.
So I have a question. Is that the culture that was developed for 25 years and just got into there, started from let's say the founder, and then just move on across the organization? And when you hire new people, you just choose them based on the values, based on the culture and the fit, not only by what do they know, or it was the culture that was built more with the people that were coming inside the organization. I mean, in ideal case, usually it's those two integrated, but I just wanted to hear the way you were building it.
Yeah, I think it's integrated. I mean, to give you some background, when I started with WBR in 2013, there was only a real small handful of people, and then I built the team in Asia. I built it to a point now where last year, I think, end of the year, we had about 25 in Singapore. So it's not the biggest. Our London, our New York offices, our Toronto offices are larger. That's just the nature of the Asian market. But to answer your question, I mean, WBR, we've always had a really clear set of core values that we believe are kind of what we look for in our people. And we test for that in the interview process as well. We want people to come in that are kind of entrepreneurial, can do, problem solvers, work well in a team. We always make sure we get reference checks and kind of speak to people. And we're very thorough in the hiring process. Even then, though, you sometimes get it wrong, right? People just interview well, and they come in and they are a flop, or they are toxic. But we do our utmost to ensure that we hire for culture fit. But I would say WBR is great because the senior leadership in the company all trickles down from the senior leadership, and often the business will promote from within. So it recognizes achievement, it recognizes performance, it recognizes people who are high potential, and it rewards that. And if you look across the business, the managing directors in the business at the moment all started really at the bottom. They started as kind of entry-level researchers and producers. That's my background as well. And they've worked their way up. So, when you talk to people in the company at a senior level, they really know what they're talking about because they've been in the trenches, right? They've done it. They've had that experience. They've worked with customers, and they really understand where you're coming from as well, because they've often gone through the difficult moment or the difficult challenge that you're currently in, or they just can give you good advice. And I've worked for companies in the past where that is just really not the case. You go to someone for some advice and you think, huh? Do you work in the same industry as me? What are you talking about? So I think that's really a big one. And for me in Asia, for me personally, you can't get stuff done if you don't have a good culture. You just can't get stuff done. And for me, I always wanted to feel like when we were going to the office more, like work was a place where you could just be happy to go. You know what I mean? I mean, I've got 2 children, and they're quite young. So for me on a Monday morning, I would jump through the lift doors and be like, yay, work. I get to sit down for 8 hours and drink some coffee, and no one's going to talk to me. But I've always tried to instill that in the team. And for me, I've always tried to make the work environment super safe. I want people to feel really safe. I want people to feel like they can take a risk. And if they take a risk and it doesn't work out, no one's going to berate you for that. I'd rather people try things in kind of controlled environments to push the business forward, rather than being too scared to ever share ideas or anything like that. And I think it was that kind of safe culture that really helped us through last year, because everyone knew that they had each other's backs. We are a close-knit team. And look, not all the online stuff we tried worked, right? It was just the nature of the beast last year. But we failed together and we succeeded together. And now we have a really well optimized and kind of well-oiled offering. So So I don't know if that answers your question, Amanda, but yeah, I think that's really it. I think it starts from the top, and then you've got to create that really safe culture, safe environment, hire for fit, and make sure that you recognize people and give them a lot of praise on a daily basis and help them through everything.
It really does. Thanks for sharing this. So one more question to add to that. While you were going through the transformation of how the COVID affected everything, and you needed to change and transform the way you do the work that you've been doing successfully for so many years. What are some things that you can emphasize that you were doing when it comes to communication with the clients? Just to make all that transition more smooth and more easy. Because you said that they love the product and everything. So, but when things are changing, people are starting to be unsecured, and so we need to communicate more often and more clear in some situations just to get the transition right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there was a huge amount of fear at the onset, right? At the beginning of the pandemic from most people. I think business concerns took a back seat to kind of personal concerns, to health concerns. I think what we did, and it was really funny because at the beginning of the pandemic, empathy became the kind of the buzzword. Oh, you've got to have empathy, but I think you kind of always have to have empathy. Otherwise, there's probably something wrong with you. But yeah, you should always be very empathetic. I think for us, the main thing we did at the beginning was we just went out to all of our top kind of billers, our top spenders, our biggest customers, and we just spoke to them. We just said, what are you going through? What's happening with you right now? This is the situation. This is what we're doing. And in the beginning of COVID, our original plan, to be honest, was to kind of move our large scale summits by 6 months. And maybe we were overly optimistic, but we thought, the pandemic will be over by then. We can kind of get back to business as normal. So we spoke to customers about that. And in the beginning, we kind of moved their existing commitments, their sponsorships for a lot of them over to the rescheduled event in 6 months. And when it became clear that, again, we couldn't do that, we just had a very frank talk with them around, we're going to move it online. These are the pros, these are the cons. These are some of the frequently asked questions. This is what other customers are saying. This is why it's not an issue. And this is what we can do, and this is how we can help you. You can do this. You can repurpose your money onto the virtual event, or you can move it onto one of our other products or offerings, and we're here to help you and work with you and get you through this difficult moment. We're in it together. And like always, we just want you to get the most return on your investment. So really, I think the main thing is just having those honest discussions, and kind of putting the monetary stuff aside and just dealing with each other like humans. Because I mean, I think this whole health pandemic has just humanized everyone, right? I mean, that's one of the positives that's come out of it. It's put us all in the same boat. And everyone it's people first. And I think when you treat your customers like that, they're more than happy to get through the rocky moments with you. And when things return and things are normal again, they're still there. They're still your best customers.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about some things that you're seeing around, but I guess we moved through those, like giving real values, like going straight to the people, talking directly to them, and kind of avoiding that gap and the noise that might come up. So you mentioned that what are you seeing in your industry when it comes to the bullshit practices is still people measuring events by the number of attendees. Is that change, or it's still the thing? And what are some other things that you are seeing as well?
Yeah, so I think there was two questions, right? There was one around what's bad marketing for me, which maybe ties into kind of the BS, if we want to tie it together. I don't know if that works.
Yeah. Let's get into all of that. All of this bullshit.
So I mean, if we start with bad marketing, what is bad marketing for me? I think we've touched on it already a bit, but I think if you're going to market, then you've got to put your customers at the heart. of everything you do. This is a really big one for me because I see a lot of companies that will not really think about customers. They'll just push their features and expect people to buy from them based on the strength of their product or service. So I think you've got to have that. Psychology is always a big one in marketing, right? You've got to put human emotions first, and you've really got to think about marketing tactics second. So you've got to think about the people you're marketing to as people first. What are their personality types? Look at your buyer persona, your ICP, and then you think about the marketing tactics, and you've got to put yourselves in your customer's shoes. And I think the other one around bad marketing that I see happening a lot is when marketing will just work in a silo internally. They'll work independently almost to the other teams and to sales, which I always think is just madness because really both of the departments are driving revenue internally. So I think bad marketing, you've got to avoid that. I would always try and be really in sync with sales, join the weekly sales meetings. I always recommend people listen to the sales calls with customers that they're having. If they're recorded, if they're not recorded, they should be recorded. Even when marketers are writing content, if they're writing content or they're putting a piece of copy together, doing a newsletter, get sales to look at it, get the other teams to look at it, the product teams, get their feedback because they're talking to customers regularly. It's going to give you a great insight on how to market better to your customers. And I'd also say, and again, I've seen this where marketers are marketing without really understanding what they're marketing. They just got like a surface level knowledge about their own product or their service or solution. And I don't really understand how you can expect anyone to buy from you if you're not an expert in what you're marketing. So I'd always say use your own product, use your own solution, really understand it, get that subject matter expertise so that, when you write the copy or when you talk to a customer or you talk internally, people just know you get it. You've got to market internally sometimes just as much as you have to market externally. And then another one, I put down a lot in the menu. Another one is I'd say not giving away your expertise for free. Kind of drives me nuts. So I'll see a lot of companies that will have content or blog articles or white papers. It's always gated. So you've always got to put in an email to access anything. I'd say give your expertise away for free. Benefit of doing that is over time, then your customers or your target customers will come to recognize you as that expert in the space when you're constantly giving away all your content and expertise for free. And then when they are ready to buy, they'll come to you. So it's quite counterintuitive when you gate everything. And then lastly,
how was that? Sorry to interrupt you, but you know how they say, but how can we know that somebody is reading it? Like we get back to that question. And I mean, today you have all kind of metrics that can give you that answer.
We get into it as well, right? I mean, if we're working with a company and they want to capture leads, then gating the content makes sense. What we normally do is that we would have two articles. So we'd have one article which is ungated and you can read, and would give you a really good executive summary. And if you want to find out more, if you want to go a little bit deeper, then you have to put in an email. But I think to gate everything, regardless, to say, hey, here's our content, but you must be in our database or you must be in our newsletter, and you're going to be sold to the minute you put in that email. It's like, I would have more trust for a company if they just gave me the information, and the information is good, right? Yeah,
that's kind of what's happening all the time. And I was kind of hoping that it would change during the last year during the pandemic, but no. Like people going after leads, companies going after leads, after MQLs, not after qualified leads.
Yeah,
it would never change, or it would take more and more years for that to come.
Yeah, the challenge is always the internal challenge, isn't it? If you're at a company where they're like, oh, I need 500 leads in a month, then obviously you're going to gate everything, aren't you? Because you need the leads. Whereas if you have a more like a long-term view, maybe you can provide more for free, can't you?
Yeah, I think it comes comes to the way you measure your marketing efforts in most of the companies. Like the management needs to know that marketing is doing something, and because sales cycles are longer, they need to have a proof that they have done something each month, and then it comes down to the leads. And when you have leads, then why didn't they send out more leads? Because that would mean the improvement, right? And when you look at the big picture, it actually isn't the improvement.
No, and looking at it purely on the number of leads doesn't tell you much either, right? I mean, you should be looking at the quality of the leads. I mean, the main metric you should really be looking at is how many leads from marketing actually make it into the sales team's pipeline. That's really the key, right? I mean, if you're putting through leads that are actually out as outbound live opportunities in the pipeline, there's a proposal out, then you're doing something right, and you should be doubling down on that channel. But if you're just giving people 500 leads, I mean, most of the time sales, can probably never even use most of those leads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to add?
The BS in my industry, I think you were touching at, right? I mean, you're right. I mean, if I look at it on kind of B2B summits and conferences, the one thing that always really irks me is when we're speaking to a marketer and they will just purely base the decision on whether they would sponsor with us on the number of attendees, right? So they would look at maybe a trade show or a larger online event now with 10,000 attendees in the same industry. And because maybe our e-tail event, for example, would only have 500 delegates, they'd go with the one with 10,000 attendees. But they're not actually basing it on job title, size of company, relevance, who's going, are they decision makers, will they buy their product, how much face time can they have? And if you think about the last time you were at a large in-person event or even a large online event, it's actually very difficult with kind of more than 500 people, 300 people to actually have conversations or to meet people one-on-one. So I would always, just say that if it drives me mad, but if you're a marketer and you're looking at sponsoring an event, you should always go deeper, always look at the demographics, always look at who's going, and base it on the amount of time that that company's inside sales team is probably spending curating that audience, because it can take a huge amount of time, and you only need to meet with 10 people at one of these things. If 2 of those goes to deals, to business, then that can be a massive ROI for you. So don't base it on the number of attendees, because it won't get you anywhere in the long run.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
That's just healthy logic.
Yeah.
Something that we lack in the most cases when we think especially about events, because it's a thing that can get us excited, but we get excited about the wrong things.
Yeah, I get why it happens. It goes back against that leads conversation, doesn't it? I mean, if you've got pressure internally, or if you want to show that you've made the right decision and you don't know maybe enough, you can say, well, this one's got so many people going, obviously it's a better opportunity for us. But it's not the case. You've got to go deeper.
Yeah. Let's just go for a moment a little bit outside of work, and see what are some topics that you think that we need to talk more outside of work. Just something that you are seeing around in your neighborhood or globally. What are some things that we need to discuss more?
Yeah, I think I put it down when you'd sent me the questions to go up on LinkedIn, but the big one for me, and especially last year, is at the moment is mental health of people, mental health of employees, mental health of friends and family. Everyone's gone through a really difficult time in the last 12 months. Everyone's kind of dealing with different things. Whilst the work from home has got good points, we can kind of focus and structure our days around our own tasks and activities, exercise when we used to commute and all that good stuff. It comes with stresses as well. If you've got small children at home, it's quite stressful. You kind of barricade. If both you and your spouse are working, then you've got to try and share the responsibilities between homeschooling the kids and working. You've got the endless back-to-back Zoom calls, which I don't know about you, but sometimes if I'm looking at myself for more than 5-6 hours a day, I need to go around the house and paper over all the mirrors at the end of the day because I don't want to look at myself anymore, which is very tiring, right? Much more tiring than a normal meeting or just an audio call.
I used to talk that after I do a 5 or 6 hours training for the like 20 B2B companies where most of the time I'm talking, like I need infusion. Like
that's it.
Just lay me down in bed and put something in my veins.
Yes. I've discovered Monster Energy in the shop just downstairs. So that's about as close as I can get, I think, to that. And even if you're not living with family, a lot of people are working alone at the moment as well. And if you're in lockdown again, it's incredibly lonely and quite difficult. And then at the same time, we've got all the health concerns, and we're in the middle of one of the worst economic crises ever. So there's a lot of worry about work and company stability. When you put all of this together, it's a pretty dangerous combination of factors. And I think then you as a business owner, or you as a senior manager, or as a team lead, I think you've got to have this really front of mind as well when you catch up with your colleagues and with your employees. And a big one for me is that I always start every team meeting just by asking people how they are personally. How are things at home? How are they getting on? And if there's anything I can help with in that moment, and if that takes half the meeting, 2/3 of the meeting, then so be it, because it's more important than kind of just going into what people are accountable for. Why aren't you performing? Where are the results? There's so many different things that can be at play at the moment, and you must factor that in. It's really, and you're not doing your job properly if you're not factoring that in. And the same with friends and family. When you catch up with friends and family, I think just making sure that you're doing the same thing. Is this something you're seeing as well?
Yeah, seeing that as well. There had been a lot of talks about mental health, about dealing with some issues all around. I mean, even here with my wife, it was like during the lockdown, she was the one going to work. I could work from anywhere. But when she comes home, and usually she used to take those long walks that she enjoys. But now, she was totally, I'm gonna have a beer and just watch TV.
Okay.
And kind of when you got stuck into the routine, and you get all the bad things from the TV and from the news and wherever, you just want to get away into some of your space for a while. And if it becomes a routine, then it's dangerous.
Yeah,
I mean, right. She didn't become an alcoholic. It was just an example.
Yeah. I'm sure she didn't. No, but you're right. Yeah, I mean, you have to employ kind of habits and things that can keep you in positive mindset, right? Things like exercise, things like making sure you take breaks, drink enough water, go for a walk. Yeah, otherwise it just becomes a bit of a pressure cooker.
I don't know about you. I wanted to ask you about it. What are some things that keep you going? For me, it's like celebrate every small little wins. I used to shut down the laptop and just play some music and dance around a little bit, or once a day I make myself get on my bicycle, go to the city center and just drink a coffee on the morning sun.
Okay.
Or sit down by the river, those kinds of things.
Is that where you do your LinkedIn posts? You're pretty prolific on LinkedIn, I must admit.
I mean,
3 posts, 4 posts a day?
Yeah, three posts a day. But it's just because I'm listening to so many things, doing so many things, and I've been here for 12 years. So a lot of posts have already been made, and we have Facebook memories, we have Google Drive to remind us of some of those things. So I used to repurpose a lot, especially now on LinkedIn. After 3 months, nobody remembers what you've been writing.
That's true.
and you are constantly going over the same things because the same problems keep occurring, and you don't need to go and reinvent the wheel.
It's also things you're passionate about and can speak about, can't you, at detail. So there's no problem kind of recycling that stuff. As long as you can always position it slightly differently. I don't remember what I posted a month ago, so you're doing well if it's 3 months.
I just do the research, because I either leave a hashtag, which helps me track the old posts, or like as I said, Facebook memories. They help me a lot, because I used to use Twitter as Facebook as a Twitter. So a lot of points over there, a lot of discussions, and and I read a lot of comics. It helps me kind of structure the dialogues when somebody comes up in the room. How can I cut short some things? How can I leave out the unnecessary points? Those kind of things.
Nice. Which comics do you like? Which ones do you get into?
A lot of them. To be honest, at the moment, I'm collecting Lieutenant Blueberry. I don't know if you have read it. It's the old one about the Wild West, about Indians, cowboys, and all those things. And I just wanted to collect it because it was the comics my father was reading to me. And now they are republishing them. So I'm kind of trying to gather them around, but a lot of things like DC, Marvel, of course, but also some others which are pretty, I don't know, unique.
Yeah, it's a good way to unplug, and also frame for your writing.
I'm kind of tired of reading, especially business books, because nowadays business books you get at least just one or maybe two things for each book. And to get that, you need to read at least a half of the book. And I'm kind of don't have that consideration. So I just went all in on comics.
Okay, cool. I used to read. I'm reading The Ghost in the Shell at the moment. Some short stories, sci-fi. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then my only Western comics I ever read. Did you ever read Preacher? The kind of Western comics. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah. He had the voice of God, and then people would just do as he said. Yeah, that was a great comic series. Yeah,
Preacher is great.
Yeah, very cool.
Cool, man. So for the end, I like to ask two questions. One is what are the two things that you will double down in the next period of time, and the second one is there any topic that we didn't discuss and you would like to address here to me, to us, or to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of doubling down for this year, I think as we touched on, I mean, from there's two things I've kind of going to mention, one from a company, one from personal. I think the main focus for me on a company side is to kind of build the business so that we're the kind of number one digital summits, one-to-one meeting and content business in APAC. As I said, we want to be that one-stop shop for customers year-round marketing and business development plans. So we're really doubling down on those multi-touch campaigns across research reports, virtual summits, one-to-one meetings, bespoke roundtables, podcasts, and content syndication. And I'm really excited, like I said, around the number of channels we have to allow our customers to kind of meet all their various marketing objectives. And then outside of work, I think the main thing I want to double down on this year, I think like we just touched on there around having a structure and, being able to relax in the evening, read comics, go out, see friends is just to be able to kind of spend quality time with the family. I think the one thing the health pandemic's done is it's been a very challenging time as we've discussed, but it's also really been an opportunity to slow down and enjoy the simple things. And I just want to make sure that this year I'm spending lots of time with my two daughters, with my wife, seeing them in the evenings, going out the weekends and just enjoying everything because, we still have a lot of amazing things that we're fortunate enough to have in our lives. So that'd be the two kind of main things I'm doubling down on this year, Nemanja. Anything we haven't discussed? I think it was a very wide-ranging conversation. I really enjoyed it. I didn't actually feel like we were doing a podcast. Just felt like we were catching up, so it was good.
That was kind of the attention. Like when I was listening to you and double down on the things. One of the things I hope I'll double down in the second part of the year, when we kind of have the measurements going down, and it's the concert and the music. Like here,
Yes.
where Novi Sad is kind of like the cultural mecca of the surroundings, and just leaving that part out of the city, it's not the same.
No.
And yeah, so I was hoping that we'll get back into like kind of listening to music concert, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like I had two while the lockdown was in, so I was
Okay.
able to catch one while the measurements were really down, and then I had my wedding, so it's kind of like the second one. But man, I miss listening to good music live.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we used to take for granted, isn't it? Just being able to go and see a live music show. It really puts things in perspective. I must admit, we don't get a huge kind of great live music scene in Singapore, but I'll definitely be going to even just check out anyone with a guitar on stage when that starts again. No social distancing, cold tiger beer or another beer in hand, and enjoying again.
Do you have over there like street musicians?
We do, yeah. There's kind of Clark Quay here and Boat Quay, and there's lots of kind of small bars where kind of musicians can play and they have open mic. We don't really get them so much on the roads, but yeah, in the bars. And then Singapore, I mean, it has a pretty good touring music scene. It's got some great festivals and theaters and stadiums where people will play. So we're quite fortunate. But yeah, I think the other thing I'm looking forward to, but I didn't mention it because I don't want to think forward too much, but yeah, being able to hop on a plane again and go on holiday and fly back to the UK and see my family. I'd be doubling down on that the minute we can.
Yeah, that's important. I'm still waiting for that so I can go on my honeymoon.
Yes. Have you got it booked? Or are you waiting?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, I just want to wait until the spring and then see what's kind of going on. But I think Africa is safe for now. So.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, man. Thanks for doing this. It was a pleasure to have you and to talk about all kind of different points, not only business related, but also related to life, the family, the health, and all those other important things that we often maybe forget, but they are as important as anything else.
Emmanuel, it was a pleasure. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, man. Tell us for the end, where can people find you?
Yes, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, as you know, Nemanja. Danny Levy on LinkedIn, if you want to find me. It's very easy. And if you listen to podcasts, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you can just search for digital transformation and leadership, and you'll find my podcast, which is now on season 2. And we've had some pretty cool guests. We've got more coming on. I'd love it if you check that out.
Thanks, man. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you stay with us, subscribe if you haven't already, and see you in the next episode of Smoky Marketing Podcast.